Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. It's post-match reaction time after Liverpool have just salvaged a point at Stamford Bridge in the most astonishing, extraordinary fashion after Daniel Sturridge scored a phenomenal late equaliser for us. I mean, that was absolutely mad. And I mean, in football, there are good draws and there are bad draws. There are points that you are frustrated by and there are points that you will take all day long. And today was quite possibly the best way you could ever draw a game. I mean, coming out of that, it feels like a win. I'm sure it feels like a loss for Chelsea as well. And it puts Liverpool in such a much better position for this coming week, because at the end of the day, if we draw all the games this week, we are still top of our Champions League group and we are still at least level on points with the other teams at the top of the Premier League table. So the most important thing is not just to win these matches, but to get those draws. And that is something that Liverpool just about managed to do today. And like I said, it took an absolutely incredible goal by Daniel Sturridge, and he is vindicated in why he is put into the side and why we need him so much this season. I mean, at the moment, he's looking like signing of the summer, even though he didn't really sign for us. But I guess, we were expecting to sell him. We decided to keep him. It feels a bit like a new signing, and now it certainly does after the way he's playing. And it's just an example of just how good Daniel Sturridge is at football. At the end of the day, you can criticise his injury record. You can criticise maybe his tactical awareness and how well he fits into the system. But there aren't many other players in the Liverpool squad, in the Premier League, and potentially even on the planet that are as technically gifted as Daniel Sturridge. There are only a handful of players out there capable of not just of pulling that finish off, but of attempting it in that situation in the first place. There aren't many players out there who back themselves to that degree that they look at that and think, you know what? I can do that. That's easy. I can do that all day long. And Daniel Sturridge manages it. It is an absolutely phenomenal goal. And like I said, there are not any better ways to draw a game than to do it that way. Because at the end of the day, it was looking set to be such a frustrating game for Liverpool today. And if I'm honest, I'd say a draw is potentially a fair result. I'd potentially even go as far as saying that we deserve to win it. But I'm not sure that's a game we win last season. I mean, you only have to look back at the game we had at Stamford Bridge in the penultimate Premier League match day of last season, where we do go behind after impressing in the early stages, and then Chelsea just hold out and prevent us from ever really getting back into the game. To see an example of exactly how today could have gone if Sturridge doesn't score that late equaliser. So it's definitely a sign of where Liverpool have come and just how serious we can consider this title challenge. And yeah, there's a long, long way to go yet, but that was a massive statement for Liverpool today, and potentially an even bigger statement than those wins against Tottenham and against PSG as well, because it was such a tough game. Like I said, we never really looked like getting anything out of it, even though we were playing so well, and we just had problems when it came to those final finishes that meant that we never really managed to get ourselves going and get the goal that I think if we'd got in the first half, we probably would have kicked on and won that game by 3-1 or something like that. But things just don't quite go our way, and I think we did start incredibly well. I really like the way we pressed, and I think the only criticism you could have of the way we started, and it's one of the reasons that I think Chelsea do get their goal, is the way we press, because we realise how good those Chelsea players on the ball, how good they are at passing it, how good they are at getting out of tight spaces. We've got to press so tightly, and with a lot of players as well. You've got to almost have like 3 midfielders closing down one Chelsea player to try and force an error and win the ball back. And it was definitely working, but all the time before Hazard scores, I was thinking, if they work out how to get out of this, if they manage to get the ball away from this tight space, then suddenly there's going to be acres of space elsewhere on the pitch for them to exploit, and that is exactly how they get the goal. And it's just a really poor error from Trent Alexander-Arnold in that he just doesn't have to do it. And unfortunately for him at this level, especially up against a player like Eden Hazard, you are going to get punished. He goes out ball chasing. It's Eden Hazard who's on the ball, so that's kind of fine because, it's his man. He wants to keep an eye on Hazard at all times because he is the player that you don't want to leave unmarked and stuff like that. But then he chases the ball instead of staying on Eden Hazard, and it's that tiny mistake that, I feel maybe I'm a bit harsh to say that it's a poor error, because it is just such a tiny mistake that gets punished to the maximum degree. And maybe Joe Gomez could throw a leg in there. I mean, before Hazard takes the shot, I wasn't expecting him to score, because I see Joe Gomez coming in and think all he needs to do is just stick a leg out here, and then he's got the far post covered and Alisson's got the near post covered, but Gomez just doesn't reach for it. And I feel like if he does, then he can probably stop that goal going in. And then, I'm not criticising Alisson, because it is an incredibly good finish from Eden Hazard. He puts it right in the corner. Alisson does well even just to get down in the first place, and from then on in, things just start to go a little bit wrong, because earlier on, when we're playing that good football, when we're creating those chances, we're thinking this is fine, we're on top, the goal's going to come. But as soon as Chelsea score, we suddenly feel like we're on the back foot. I think the players just get into their own heads a little bit, and suddenly they're just making the wrong decisions. And I saw a lot of people criticising a lot of different players on the pitch at half-time, and I think, to be fair to all the Liverpool fans out there, everyone was losing their heads, because it's annoying when you're 1-0 down, and we haven't been losing at half-time at any point so far this season. So it's kind of fair enough that people were losing their heads a little bit, but people were criticising the midfield and saying they weren't adventurous enough. But I thought, apart from Milner, who looked shattered, and I think if Jurgen Klopp tries to play him against Napoli in the weekend, then it can probably count as attempted murder, because by no means should he be starting that game with the amount of football that he's played recently and how he played today. I just feel like he didn't have the energy to make the right decisions at times and make the right runs and get into the right positions. And it did feel a little bit like we were playing a man light in midfield because of that. But I thought Henderson was really, really good in the first half. Technically, I thought he really showed what he was capable of. Had some really good touches, some really good passes, and did control the tempo pretty well. And I think if it wasn't for Henderson, I don't think we create that many chances in the first half. And then Gino Wijnaldum does really well as well, charging out of midfield in that more advanced role that we haven't seen much of him in this season. And to be fair, I looked at that and thought I want him to be playing in the six, because when he has played further forward this season, he hasn't always been that good. But I thought what he did today was really good, carrying the ball and everything like that. And then the front three, they're getting into the right positions, but it was always just that final ball that wasn't quite there. And I mean, a lot of people are criticising Salah, and fair enough, he doesn't have a great game today, and really he should be burying that chance when he has an open goal. I think if he just gets a bit more power on it, and if he lifts it a little bit more, it definitely goes in. But because it's on his right foot, and I think because he's in his own head a little bit about the fact that he hasn't quite started this season as he finished the last one, I think he tries too hard to place it, whereas if it's on his left foot, he gets enough power on it because he trusts himself to find the net anyway. So, I mean, Salah didn't have a great game, but I think he was trying to do the right things. And a criticism people have had of him so far this season is that his decision-making in the final third is poor, whereas I think he passed at the right times, he shot at the right times. There were a few times where I feel like he tried a bit too hard to take players on and keep the ball at his feet, where he should have just done a give and go and maybe tried to play a 1-2, and that would have come up with much better results. But I thought in general, I like the way he's trying to pick his teammates out. He's tried to find Firmino a lot of times, which is definitely a positive sign, because I think last season, one of the best link-ups we had was Salah and Firmino, and they were always finding each other and spotting each other's runs. And at the end of the day, it doesn't come off today. There are a few passes that he just overhits or underhits, and likewise with Firmino, who I thought had a good game, but again had similar problems in terms of his final ball. But hopefully that's something we just get over, because we had this kind of problem at a similar stage last season. It was around this time, and last season it was so much worse because we weren't getting the results we wanted either. But last season, around this time in the season, we just weren't finishing our chances well enough, and it was becoming really frustrating. And you just got to hope that the same thing happens this season, where as it goes on, as the players just get a little bit more rhythm, as they get used to playing weekend and midweek as well, those finishes and those final balls will start to come. And then, yeah, the first half in general, I thought we just did play well, but unfortunately, it's Chelsea who punished us by scoring that goal. And we all know how good Eden Hazard is. And unfortunately, with a player of that quality, you can make one tiny mistake like Trent Alexander-Arnold and get punished. And then I think in the second half, we did start to second guess ourselves a little bit much. And there were a lot of moments, especially on set pieces, where we were, again, just making the wrong decisions going forward. I think all the time with set pieces, we were going short corners and stuff like that. And the free kicks, we were trying to pick out the wrong kind of players and the wrong kinds of passes. And I think we just needed to be a little bit more direct at times. And I think we needed to be a little bit quicker in terms of our attacking play. And I mean, the best chance we have in that second half is probably the one for Xherdan Shaqiri that's set up by Andrew Robertson. And it's just an example of what happens if we try and play quickly, if we try and get the ball forward before Chelsea can set themselves up to deal with it, because that's how they've been undone so far this season. You look at how they played against Arsenal, where they conceded 2 goals and they were just giving chances away for fun in that first half. It all came from Arsenal just attacking so quickly that Chelsea could never really set themselves. And I feel like David Luiz and Marcus Alonso are the kind of players where you hit them quickly, they will get caught out of position, they'll get caught in situations they don't want to be in. And we just didn't do that enough in the second half. But the most important thing is that despite all of that, we still come away with the draw, because like I said, it really didn't feel like it was going to be our day. Everything we tried didn't come off. There was a fantastic save from Kepa Arrizabalaga in that second half as well, from Sadio Mane, who worked so well to get the chance. And again, that's where I kind of feel like I'm being a little bit harsh on the players, because at the end of the day, they did make some poor decisions. But when they got things right, things just didn't quite go our way, and that Mane chance was a key example of it. You know, when Mane scores, you forgive him of all the other moments in the game where he lets the ball get away from him, he picks out the wrong pass and stuff like that, because you think that's part of his game, and if you're going to take the goals, you have to take that side of it as well. But it just felt like the goals just weren't going to come today, and then it's an incredible strike from Daniel Sturridge, and I think he's just going to be such an important player for us this season. I feel like that's such an obvious statement to make, but I think it's one that needs saying, because we did not have this last season. Like I said, we don't draw that game last season, we lose it. We don't score last season in that game if we play for another 10 hours or something like that. But having a player like Sturridge who can come off the bench, and players like Shaqiri and Keita as well, who just allowed us to maintain the same levels of intensity all the way through the game. You know, last season, I think in that situation when we were 1-0 down and we couldn't break Chelsea down, I think we just dropped off towards the end because we ran out of gas, we ran out of ideas. And the fact we could bring Keita on, the fact we could bring Shaqiri on and Sturridge on, just meant that we could keep on pushing and pushing, and in the end we were rewarded. And like I said, at the end of the day, draw is not the best result in the world, and I would have loved to have taken 3 points in this game, but to make sure that Chelsea don't win and to draw it in that matter almost feels better than most wins we will get this season. So yeah, absolutely incredible goal from Daniel Sturridge. I think man of the match would probably be Gini Wijnaldum, because I just think no matter how the game was going, whether we were doing badly or whether we were doing well, it always felt like when he got the ball, he was trying to do things. He was driving forward with it. He was doing what Oxlade-Chamberlain did in his absolute prime last season, where he got it in the middle of the park and tried to link up with the attack. And I think if it wasn't for Wijnaldum, we would have allowed Chelsea back into the game, because he allowed us to keep up our intensity. He made sure we were always putting them on the back foot, and that meant that they never really managed to control the game in that second half. And as much as they kept us at bay for most of it, I think the reason that we get that goal at the end is because we just never allowed Chelsea back into the game. So yeah, man of the match, Gini Wijnaldum, but Daniel Sturridge is the hero. A very, very well-earned point for Liverpool, and he is hoping we can kick on and carry on getting some solid results in what is an absolutely massive week in our season. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, then why not give it a like? If you're new around here as well, hit that subscribe button there. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll be back either tomorrow or on Monday with the pre-match video for the game against Napoli. Bye for now.